Hey guys, tonight we're doing something uniquely calming and deeply unhinged. We're diving into the strangely booming, quietly chaotic and unbelievably modern world of gabapentin. Yes, gabapentin. The prescription drug that somehow went from nerve pain sidekick to why is everyone's aunt, neighbour and barber suddenly snorting this? It's a molecule with an identity crisis, a fan base, and a street reputation it absolutely did not ask for. So before we get comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. And thank you for suggesting this topic. You truly steer this little corner of the internet in the best ways. If you want to help the algorithm gently pat me on the head, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. It's 2 a.m. somewhere, and statistically, someone watching this is eating shredded cheese straight from the bag right now. No judgment. This is a safe space. Now dim the lights, put on a fan for that soft apocalyptic hum, settle into your blanket burrito, and let's begin our soothing descent into the world of a medication that somehow ended up with a nightlife. But let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered how a harmless little anticonvulsant became the quiet star of suburban medicine cabinets everywhere? Why did millions start using it as a sleep aid / anti-anxiety / maybe this will help my backache, even though it's for neuropathy? Did doctors actually know what they were prescribing, or were they just hoping for the best? Like a medieval barber guessing which part of the humours needed draining. What is Gabapentin's street name? Spoiler, it's somehow both boring and concerning. Who was the first person to say, this capsule would be even more effective if I inhaled it? And most importantly, could you survive a day in the bizarre microculture surrounding the prescription drug no one was talking about until suddenly everyone was? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in the late 1990s. Gabapentin has just hit the market. No one knows what to expect, and you're about to witness how a medication for seizures slowly becomes the Swiss Army knife of my doctor, who wasn't sure what else to give me. Rest well, brave traveller. Things are about to get soothingly strange. You begin your day as gabapentin itself, an unassuming little capsule designed to help with seizures, only to wake up decades later with millions of fans, a reputation you never asked for, and absolutely no social media presence. Somehow you're now famous, confused, and invited to treat conditions you didn't major in. It's strange being a pill that never meant to go viral. You weren't built to be glamorous. You weren't designed for red carpets, influencer deals, or being referenced casually in conversations like, "Oh yeah, my doctor put me on gabapentin." Life-changing. You were supposed to sit quietly on a shelf, minding your own business, helping stabilize the electrical chaos in people's brains. You were modest, humble, the pharmaceutical equivalent of a cardigan. And yet somehow, accidentally, you became a household name. Let's talk about how that happens. One moment you're introduced to the medical marketplace with the quiet dignity of a character actor, and the next moment doctors everywhere are prescribing you for nerve pain, anxiety, sleep issues, chronic itchiness, existential dread, and whatever mysterious sensation someone describes as a buzzing feeling in my legs that might be from stress or from sitting weird. You, tiny gabapentin capsule, have officially entered your character arc montage without ever auditioning for the role. Your rise to fame begins in examination rooms across the country, whereas doctors gently tap on keyboards with the same confidence medieval physicians had when prescribing leeches. They look at their patient, look at you, and say, with serene certainty, "Let's give gabapentin a try." They don't even flinch. They don't blink. You'd think they were recommending herbal tea. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, "Sir, I was designed to treat seizures." But fame is rarely logical. Sometimes it just happens, like avocado toast or fidget spinners, or those medieval peasants who woke up one day to discover everyone believed in ghosts again. Soon, you're everywhere. in pill organizers, glove compartments, bathroom drawers, and that one decorative ceramic dish everyone claims is just for keys, but is actually a pharmaceutical junkyard. People don't store you reverently. They toss you in with bobby pins and expired coupons. You're not offended, you're just trying your best. And once you're in the wild, the stories begin. One person says you make them sleepy, another says you make them chatty, another says you give them the attention span of a toddler who just ate 6 crayons. Your personality changes depending on who swallows you. Like a medieval changeling child, except FDA approved. You become an icon without knowing why. You didn't hire a PR team. You didn't drop a mixtape. You simply existed long enough for the entire country to say, yeah, I've heard of that one. Your fan base grows. Not intentionally, people just keep being prescribed you for wildly different reasons. Someone takes you for sciatica. Someone else takes you for migraines. Someone else takes you because their doctor shrugged in a way that implied, I mean, why not? You're like the Swiss Army knife of pharmaceuticals. Not perfect for any single job, but good enough for a surprising number of them. And then comes the true mark of fame, the debates. Online forums light up with questions about you. Does gabapentin make anyone else feel like a sleepy cloud? Why did gabapentin make me clean my entire kitchen at 11 p.m? Is it normal that I forgot what day it is? Your fans aren't coordinated, but they're passionate, like medieval villagers who can't agree whether the comet means good harvest or imminent doom. Doctors continue to prescribe you with the same energy people use when they recommend their favourite TV show. Not too intense, but with a silent hope that you'll stick. And through all of this, you remain exactly as you were, one tiny capsule, doing your best, baffled by your own cultural impact. In the end, your accidental celebrity status is kind of inspiring. You started small, quiet, overlooked, and now, without ever asking for it, you've become something else entirely. A comforting presence for millions. A strangely universal experience. A little piece of modern medical folklore. You never meant to become famous. But sometimes, fame chooses you. Even if you're just gabapentin. It's the early 2000s and every doctor in America is staring at you like a group project they forgot existed until 5 minutes before the presentation. Back pain, gabapentin. Anxiety, gabapentin. Can't sleep, gabapentin. Mild existential dread. Who knows? Gabapentin might help. Because this was the era when medicine was evolving faster than anyone could keep up, and every doctor's office felt like the inside of a medieval apothecary, minus the leeches plus fluorescent lighting. You walk into your appointment expecting answers, maybe even clarity, and your doctor walks in with the facial expression of someone who just realised they left their coffee on top of their car again. They sit down, sigh, glance at your chart, then offer the one solution they are certain will not get them sued: gabapentin. There's no dramatic pause, no explanation. Just a casual shoulder shrug that says, look, it probably won't hurt, and honestly, it's been a long week. Doctors in this era were exhausted, paperwork piling up, pharmaceutical reps dropping off free lunches like desperate medieval bards trying to earn favour, insurance companies denying everything except air, and even then only if you use the correct CPT code. Gabapentin arrived in the middle of all this chaos like a soft, unassuming sheep wandering into a battlefield, and doctors latched on. Let's talk about that moment when your doctor hears your symptoms. You gently explain the weird buzzing in your leg, or the sudden inability to sleep without contemplating your entire life choices. The doctor nods deeply, meaningfully, then immediately types something into the computer with the determined energy of a raccoon rifling through a dumpster. And when they turn toward the printer, you already know what's coming. It's a prescription for gabapentin. There's a certain clinical poetry to the way they hand it to you. They offer it with the same reverence medieval peasants offered firewood. Not glamorous, but frequently the only option. You ask, how does it work? and the doctor leans back, staring somewhere between your forehead and the existential void, then answers with a beautifully vague, "Well, it calms the nerves." "Which nerves? How calm? Calm like drifting off into gentle sleep, or calm like my limbs feel like melting butter and I forgot my own PIN number?" No one clarifies, because no one knows. And honestly, no one has time to know. This was the early 2000s, an era when the medical world quietly embraced ambiguity as a lifestyle. They didn't always need a reason, they needed results, and gabapentin, for all its mystery, kept being weirdly helpful. Not perfect, not predictable, but helpful enough that the country collectively decided, yeah, just throw that in there too. Soon, gabapentin became part of the doctor's holy trinity of things, to try when everything else is annoying or too expensive. Physical therapy, drink more water, gabapentin. You could walk into a clinic complaining about anything short of heartbreak, and there was a 50% chance gabapentin would be involved. Even heartbreak got considered once or twice. Doctors loved that gabapentin didn't require complex monitoring or blood level checks. Unlike older medications that demanded constant lab work and emotional stability, gabapentin asked for nothing except the occasional reminder not to mix it with a glass of wine on an empty stomach. It was the roommate that didn't complain, didn't borrow your clothes, and quietly paid rent. And so you end up with a pill bottle and a gentle warning about possible dizziness, which is doctor code for you may stand up one day and forget how gravity works. You walk out of the exam room feeling both reassured and mildly confused, but that's the thing about the early 2000s. Medicine didn't always answer questions, sometimes it offered vague comfort and told you to call back in 6 weeks. Gabapentin wasn't the hero doctors wanted. It wasn't even the hero they understood, but it was the hero they had, reliable, soft-spoken, and always waiting in the wings when every other idea felt too complicated. And honestly, sometimes that's all a doctor could ask for. You stroll into your local pharmacy behind a sweet elderly woman buying postcards and Werther's Originals and casually overhear her ask the pharmacist if she can take gabapentin with her gabapentin. She's not addicted, she's just committed. This, right here, is your first introduction to the grandma pipeline, an unstoppable flow of kind, crocheted cardigan-wearing elders who treat gabapentin the way medieval peasants treated fire. Essential, precious, and absolutely worth defending in a life-or-death scenario involving mild joint aching. See, grandmas don't dabble in gabapentin. They wield it with the same strategic intensity they apply to coupons, church potlucks, and passive-aggressive compliments. For them, gabapentin isn't a medication, it's a lifestyle, a mood, a personality trait. The pharmacist greets them by name because they've been coming here since the Nixon administration, and their pill boxes are so large they require structural engineering. You watch her lean in over the counter, slowly, gently, as though sharing state secrets. "Now, sweetheart," she whispers, "if I take my nighttime gabapentin a little earlier, and then my regular gabapentin after Wheel of Fortune, will my afternoon gabapentin still count?" The pharmacist attempts to answer, but this woman has lived through the invention of microwaves, seatbelts, and flavoured yogurt. She's unstoppable. Let's talk about how we got here. Once upon a time, grandmas survived on peppermint tea, heating pads, and sheer defiance. But as the years went on and neuropathy crept into their lives like a raccoon climbing onto a porch, doctors began prescribing gabapentin with the same tone one uses to tell someone a storm is coming. Calm, serious, slightly ominous. And suddenly, every woman over the age of 65 became the proud owner of a gabapentin prescription. Grandmas took to it instantly. They embraced gabapentin like a new grandchild, confused by it at first, maybe, but immediately ready to defend it in public. They compared doses with each other in the waiting room like medieval nobles comparing castle renovations. "Oh, you're on 300 milligrams. That's adorable, dear. I'm on enough to tranquilize a horse." They sit together during potlucks, knitting scarves while discussing side effects with the same tone they use to discuss neighbours. I felt a little dizzy at first, one will say, but it's nothing compared to how Harold looked when he saw the electric bill. And of course, because grandmas never take anything halfway, they build elaborate medication schedules that rival NASA launch protocols. A typical grandmother's pill organiser looks like a jewel thief's toolkit. There are compartments for morning, noon, night, bedtime, pre-bedtime, and just in case my left leg is being dramatic again. Her entire house becomes a carefully orchestrated gabapentin ecosystem. One bottle next to the recliner, one next to the tea kettle, one beside the knitting basket, one in her purse just in case she walks more than 14 feet and her sciatic nerve sends a strongly worded complaint. She even has one on the passenger seat of her car, the same way medieval shield maidens carried backup daggers. And let's not forget, they always share advice. Grandmas pass down medical wisdom the way ancient storytellers passed down myths. You have nerve pain, they say. Take gabapentin. You can't sleep, they say. Take gabapentin. You're stressed because your adult son can't figure out how to pay taxes. Oh, sweetheart, take gabapentin. In the pharmacy, your grandma guide emerges triumphantly with her prescriptions. She walks past you with the quiet confidence of a woman who has survived world wars, disco, and gluten-free diets. She smiles kindly, as though blessing you with ancient wisdom, and you realise grandmas are the backbone of the gabapentin world. They built its fan base. They stabilised its cultural reputation. They are the unpaid influencers of this entire pharmaceutical saga. Without them, gabapentin would still be sitting in the corner, quietly treating seizures, forgotten and unremarkable. But thanks to them, gabapentin is now a household name, a sacred relic of comfort, relief, and unwavering grandmotherly authority. And truly, we should thank them for their service. You've never known true judgment until you see a pharmacist try to politely correct your pronunciation while bagging 270 capsules like they're fragile hopes and dreams. It's a very specific facial expression, one forged over years of dealing with insurance denials, long lines, malfunctioning printers, and grown adults who say things like, "I don't need to wait." I know the pharmacist personally. The moment you call it gabapentin, their eyelid twitches with the subtlety of a Victorian governess suppressing scandal. They're not angry. They're not disappointed. They've simply entered a realm of spiritual resignation that pharmacists visit daily, right alongside their break room that contains a single granola bar from 2018. You watch as they gently repeat the correct pronunciation, gabapentin, in the same tone a kindergarten teacher uses when reminding a child that the letter Q does in fact belong in the alphabet. You nod solemnly, pretending you already knew that. You did not. Let's set the scene properly. A pharmacy is essentially the modern equivalent of a medieval apothecary, if apothecaries had to argue with insurance companies over fax machines. The lights are a little too bright, the shelves a little too organised, and behind the counter stands a pharmacist who has already refilled 800 prescriptions today and has not had the chance to blink fully since 9:15 a.m. And here you are, approaching with your gabapentin bottle like a pilgrim holding a sacred relic, ready to ask a question that begins with, "This might be dumb," but they brace themselves. When you mispronounce the name, they don't correct you outright. No, that would break the fragile social ecosystem of the pharmacy. Instead, they repeat the word back to you correctly, slipping it into the sentence like a passive-aggressive olive branch. "Ah yes, your gabapentin refill is ready." You hear the difference. You try to mimic it. You fail again, somehow adding more syllables. The pharmacist's soul leaves their body for a moment. Then comes the second face. This is the one they make when they're counting out hundreds of capsules, sliding them across the tray with the tiny spatula pharmacists wield like medieval clerics wielded quills. You watch the capsules clatter softly, little beige beads of confusion and dizziness, and the pharmacist's expression softens. Not toward you, toward the medication. They look at gabapentin the way a blacksmith looks at a sword they've hammered too many times. Tired, resigned, weirdly affectionate. Pharmacists know gabapentin better than anyone. They see its quantities, its refill frequencies, the way people pick it up sheepishly, proudly, or with the vibe of someone retrieving an Amazon package they forgot they ordered. They also know that for reasons no one fully understands, patients often ask wild questions. Can I take it with coffee? Can I take it with soup? Can I take it with my aunt's essential oils? The pharmacist smiles, nods, professionally suppresses panic. But nothing quite compares to the pronunciation game. Some call it Gabby, others call it Gabba. One man boldly called it Gabriel, and no one has ever said it correctly on the first try except that one retired English teacher, who corrected the pharmacist instead. You stand there, clutching the paper bag like it contains ancient scrolls, thanking them with the reverence of someone receiving divine advice. The pharmacist smiles politely, but their eyes say, "Please don't mix it with alcohol. Please don't crush it. And for the love of all things holy, it's Gabapentin." As you turn to leave, you hear another customer step up and ask if the pharmacy carries Gabapentin. The pharmacist's soul visibly lifts from their shoulders and then sinks back down like a balloon losing helium. And for one brief, magical moment, you feel a sense of unity with the pharmacist, two travellers crossing the strange, bewildering landscape of modern medicine. You mispronounce Gabapentin. They correct you gently, and the circle of pharmaceutical life continues. You don't choose your street name. The street name chooses you. And somehow, Gabapentin ended up with monikers that sound like members of a boy band no one asked for. This is the bizarre world of pharmaceutical folklore, a place where medications slip away from their tidy clinical labels and tumble into the gritty, chaotic embrace of street culture. It's the same mysterious cosmic force that gave alprazolam the nickname bars and turned promethazine into something you could order the way medieval peasants requested ale. And now, here you are, witnessing Gabapentin, sweet, awkward, introverted Gabapentin, earning nicknames like it's trying to get signed by a record label. The first time you hear someone say Gabbies, it feels wrong. Like calling your dentist bro or referring to your taxes as a vibe. You overhear it casually in a parking lot one day, whispered with the hushed reverence of someone talking about a forbidden snack. "You got any Gabbies?" a man says, leaning into his car like he's auditioning for a low-budget documentary about suburban crime. And suddenly you're aware that we, as a society, have crossed a threshold we can never return from. Then comes the second nickname, Johnny's. You don't know who Johnny is, what he accomplished, or why his name is associated with nerve medication. You just know that somewhere out there, Gabapentin woke up, saw that opioids had a branding strategy, and decided to hire a publicist. Somehow, this deeply unglamorous pill, whose primary personality trait is may cause dizziness when standing, has earned street credibility. Let's talk about how absurd that is. Gabapentin is not the type of drug you imagine being dealt behind a 7-Eleven. It's the pharmaceutical equivalent of an accountant named Milton, who wears orthopedic shoes and brings his lunch in a Tupperware container. And yet, here it is, making the rounds, being whispered about like it's a forbidden delicacy. No one is snorting vitamin C packets. No one is swapping ibuprofen in the shadows of a PTA meeting. But Gabapentin, oh, that one's different. That one has a reputation now. Take a moment to imagine Gabapentin's reaction. This is a medication that was meant to help grandmas knit without numb fingers. It was meant to help your weird nerve buzzing stop at 2 a.m. It never expected to become a street legend. If Gabapentin had feelings, It would be clutching its pearls, fanning itself and whispering, "My goodness, what will the FDA think?" But that's the thing about culture. Once a nickname sticks, it travels. Word spreads through communities, online forums, poorly lit basements, and that one barbershop where everyone claims to know a guy. You start hearing gabbies in places that absolutely shouldn't know about gabapentin, at gas stations, at bus stops, during jury duty. Someone's cousin inevitably brags, "Yeah man, I was on the Johnnies for a while." He says it like he toured with them. It's not even a dangerous nickname, it's just confusing, innocent, wholesome even, like calling methamphetamine sparkle dust. It creates cognitive dissonance. You hear it and think, is that a street drug or a Build-A-Bear character? And of course the nicknames multiply. That's how street culture works. Someone on TikTok refers to it as nerve juice, ironically at first, then unironically. Someone else calls it soft pills because, well, they're soft. A Reddit user proposes the wobblies, after that unmistakable side effect where your legs feel like cooked linguine. The internet nods approvingly. Soon, gabapentin has more aliases than a medieval outlaw fleeing a poorly executed forgery scheme. Your pharmacy bottle contains one substance, but the world now recognizes it under a dozen identities. It's confusing. It's chaotic. It's modern mythology forming right before your eyes. And you realize something important. Every time a medication becomes a cultural phenomenon, it gets a nickname. A nickname is how humans comfort themselves around things they don't fully understand. It's how they turn fear into familiarity, complexity into comedy, boredom into folklore, and gabapentin, sweet, clumsy, side effect-rich gabapentin, has officially crossed that threshold. It has joined the crowded pantheon of drugs with alter egos and reputations far beyond their original purpose. Not because it wanted fame, but because humans simply cannot resist giving even the most unlikely things a story. If you've ever wondered what happens when boredom, desperation, and misinformation meet in a poorly lit bathroom, welcome to the world of people crushing and inhaling a drug that is absolutely not built for that. You'd think, logically, that snorting something requires at least some kind of payoff. A quicker onset, a stronger effect, a fleeting moment of questionable euphoria. But no, gabapentin does none of that. Snorting gabapentin is like microwaving a salad. Unnecessary, ineffective, and yet, somehow, someone out there has definitely tried it. More than once. Let's set the scene. You're in a cramped bathroom lit by a single bulb that flickers like it's participating in a séance. The countertop is cluttered with toothpaste caps, expired cold medicine, and a decorative soap shaped like a seashell. And somewhere between all that domestic chaos sits a lonely little capsule of gabapentin, whose only dream, its only mission in life, is to be swallowed gently with a sip of water, like a normal, respectable medication. But human beings? Oh no. Humans see a capsule and immediately think, what if I crush this into powder and snort it like I'm reenacting a scene from a crime documentary my grandmother warned me about? This is where the capsule crackdown begins. Snorting gabapentin doesn't work. It doesn't make it hit faster. It doesn't intensify the effect. It doesn't unlock a secret pharmaceutical superpower. All it does is create a tragic little dust cloud of lactose filler that burns your nostril and settles deep in your sinuses like a disappointed Victorian governess. And every pharmacist in America knows this. They watch from behind their counters with the same exhausted dread medieval monks felt when peasants insisted on curing illness with onion juice. But the human brain loves shortcuts. And when life becomes stressful, rent, jobs, bills, the endless march of time, people start inventing experimental methods for anything that might help them feel different. Enter gabapentin, the world's most unlikely candidate for recreational misuse. It's not a stimulant. It's not a depressant. It's not even a particularly enthusiastic painkiller. It's basically a warm blanket in pill form, a gentle, sleepy hug for your nervous system. And yet, somehow, in dim bedrooms and college basements everywhere, people Google, "Can you snort gabapentin?" The answer is no. The answer is always no, but curiosity is a stubborn creature. So they crush the capsule, they sniff it, they blink twice, waiting for the fireworks. Nothing happens, unless you count the sinus pain, or the dryness, or the sense of deep personal reflection that follows, where you sit on the edge of your bathtub wondering why you made such choices with your life. Meanwhile, the capsule, had it possessed consciousness, would be offended. It was manufactured with care, packed lovingly with coatings and stabilizers, designed to dissolve peacefully in the stomach. It was not made to be blown across a bathroom counter like it's reenacting a miniature sandstorm. And the pharmacists, they know what's happening. They've seen everything. They've watched customers walk out with gabapentin and return days later with pungent regret radiating from every pore. Pharmacists don't judge. They've processed too many weird questions for judgment to exist. But when someone asks if snorting the medication makes it kick in better, the pharmacist's soul gently slides out of their body like a medieval ghost seeking a new, less chaotic century. The capsule crackdown spreads because humans are endlessly creative. They will invent methods no scientist ever considered, ways to misuse things that were never meant to be misused. If someone ever invents a way to inhale aspirin, society will crumble. And yet there is something almost poetic about it, something deeply human. You take a capsule designed to help you, misunderstand its purpose completely, attempt a method that makes no sense, suffer mild consequences, and then, eventually, return to swallowing it the normal way. Just like everyone else, just like you were supposed to all along. Because in the end, gabapentin works exactly as intended when taken exactly as intended, and absolutely never faster. You know you're on gabapentin when standing up feels like you've just completed a 3-hour VR rollercoaster set to spinning gently into pajamas. It's a uniquely gentle kind of disorientation. Less I'm in danger, and the more I seem to have misplaced the concept of gravity. You rise from the couch with confidence, only to immediately reconsider every life choice, as your body tilts sideways like a medieval tower built by apprentices who learned geometry from a goat. Your knees soften, the room breathes in and out, and suddenly you understand why fainting couches were invented. Welcome to the side effect symphony, where the instruments are your limbs, the conductor is gabapentin, and the audience is whoever watches you stand up too quickly and say, "Woo, okay, wow." Dizziness is just the opening act. It arrives quietly, tiptoeing into your nervous system like a cat deciding whether or not to knock over your water glass. At first it's barely noticeable. You sway a little when bending over, misjudge a doorway by half an inch, or attempt to set down your phone but miss the table entirely. Then, gradually, it evolves into full-on medieval minstrel chaos. You walk across your living room like you're navigating the deck of a storm-tossed 17th century ship, gripping the wall and whispering, "Hold fast," to yourself while your cat stares in judgment. Then comes the sleepiness. Gabapentin doesn't just make you sleepy, it makes you the exact kind of sleepy, where the fabric of your shirt becomes fascinating, where the couch becomes morally correct, where your eyelids feel heavier than the emotional burden of knowing you still haven't folded your laundry from last week. The medication settles over you like a warm quilt someone draped across your brain, whispering, "Shh, what if we didn't do anything at all today?" You fight it briefly. You tell yourself you'll stay awake. You have tasks, responsibilities, a life. And yet, 5 minutes later, you're horizontal on the couch, one shoe on, the TV menu playing softly in the background, dreaming vividly about buying a watermelon for reasons that make absolutely no sense. And then there's the confusion, the kind that feels like wandering through a retail store you've been to 100 times but suddenly can't navigate. You walk into Target for toothpaste and suddenly find yourself holding a small lamp, 2 sweaters, a bag of tortilla chips, and absolutely no memory of how you got to the home decor aisle. Gabapentin has a way of gently wiping your mental whiteboard at the most inconvenient moments. You'll open a closet and forget why you're there. You'll read the same sentence 12 times and absorb none of it. You'll stare at your keys like they're ancient runes you must interpret to unlock civilization. This is retail-grade confusion, harmless, soft-edged, mildly amusing, and deeply relatable. You're not lost, you're simply wandering through your own life like it's a museum exhibit with poor lighting. Sometimes you forget conversations, or whether you already took your dose, or if you emailed that person back. You'll stand in your kitchen, holding an avocado, with absolutely no context for how this avocado entered your storyline. Gabapentin turns your brain into a gently shaken snow globe, everything still there, just floating. And yet, despite the dizziness, the naps, and the confusion, there's something weirdly comforting about gabapentin's side effects. They're rarely dangerous. They're just there, soft, manageable, a little silly. Like the medication isn't trying to harm you, it's simply trying its best. But its best involves making you walk like a baby deer sometimes. In time, you learn to adapt. You stand up slower. You schedule important activities before your dose. You accept that, on gabapentin, your brain occasionally reboots itself like a 1024 desktop computer. You learn to laugh at the wobbling moments, to appreciate the accidental naps, to treat confusion not as a crisis but as a quirky side quest. Because in the grand orchestra of modern medicine, gabapentin doesn't play the dramatic violins or the intimidating brass. It plays the sleepy oboe, the dizzy clarinet, the absent-minded triangle, a small, strange, charming contribution to your daily life. A symphony, just for you. Sit in a Walmart pharmacy for 15 minutes, and you will see at least 4 people pick up gabapentin. 2 ask if it's ready early, and 1 man who is absolutely convinced his dog also needs it. This is the natural habitat of gabapentin culture, a fluorescent-lit ecosystem where time moves differently, receipts are unusually long, and everyone in line is quietly performing their own pharmaceutical side quests. You don't just wait at the Walmart pharmacy, you observe. You participate in a living diorama of modern American medicine. Sociologists should honestly do fieldwork here. You settle into one of those blue plastic chairs designed by someone who wanted to discourage sitting. Around you, a gentle cross-section of humanity unfolds. A teenager buying gummy vitamins, a mother picking up antibiotics, a man holding a fishing rod for reasons that remain unclear. But the true stars of the scene are the gabapentin loyalists. The first person approaches the counter with the energy of someone who has done this every month since the Bush administration. They say their name, date of birth, and the pharmacist, without looking, reaches for a bottle already waiting. There is no conversation, no confusion. Only the smooth, silent efficiency of 2 people who have rehearsed this dance for decades. The second person leans in, squints at the pharmacist through thick bifocals, and whispers that they're a little early but hoping it might be ready anyway. It isn't. It never is. But the pharmacist smiles with the weary patience of a medieval monk tasked with illuminating a manuscript he knows will be spilled on later. Then comes the man with the dog. He stands at the counter with the seriousness of someone negotiating a peace treaty. "My vet put my dog on gabapentin," he explains loudly, "so everyone in Walmart is now aware that his schnauzer is medicated. Thing is, I ran out. Can I get a refill?" The pharmacist gently explains that, unfortunately, human pharmacies cannot refill prescriptions for animals without proper documentation. The man nods solemnly, absorbing this information as though he's receiving a spiritual prophecy. A Across the aisle, someone is Googling gabapentin side effects on their phone, scrolling with the intensity of someone reading ancient runes. You watch their face shift through recognition, curiosity, fear, and finally the resigned acceptance that dizziness is simply part of the deal. What makes Walmart special is the ambience, the hum of refrigerators holding insulin, the beeping of registers, the soft wrestling sound of someone trying to open a childproof cap they absolutely cannot open. It all blends together into a soothing white noise, like nature's soundtrack but for suburban healthcare. Then there is the inevitable announcement voice. A disembodied employee calls out, "Prescription for Jessica Jess ITE," in a tone that suggests they have transcended earthly concerns. You wait for your own name with a mixture of dread and anticipation, like waiting for judgment in a medieval courtroom, except you're surrounded by discount patio furniture. While you wait, you notice something important. Gabapentin people can sense each other. Two customers stand side by side, both holding identical brown paper bags, giving each other a subtle nod of recognition. Not friendship, not pride, just shared understanding. They are members of an unspoken club, the Brotherhood of Nerve Pain Relief. A small child walks by wearing dinosaur pajamas. A person behind you asks loudly if gabapentin is the one that makes you sleepy, or the one that makes you forget why you walked into the room. The answer, technically, is both. Finally, your name is called. You rise from the uncomfortable chair with dignity, even though your legs fell asleep 6 minutes in. You approach the counter, accept your bag, and thank the pharmacist with the earnest gratitude of a pilgrim receiving a sacred relic. You exit through the sliding doors into the afternoon sunlight, clutching your gabapentin like a trophy for surviving the harsh and wondrous realm of the Walmart wait. And you realize something. If you ever want to study the human condition, don't go to a museum, just sit in a Walmart pharmacy. The whole story is right there. You've got pain in your legs, your back, your soul. Gabapentin may or may not help, but by this point it has inherited the role of modern leech therapy for discomfort no one can quite diagnose. Because pain, real, vague, sharp, dull, stabbing, shimmering, existential, is one of humanity's oldest mysteries. Medieval peasants blamed witches, Victorians blamed posture and corsets, and in the early 2000s doctors collectively shrugged, handed out gabapentin and hoped for the best. You walk into a clinic describing a sensation like my thigh feels like it's humming emotionally, and before you can finish your sentence, the doctor is already printing a prescription. Gabapentin has become the catch-all remedy for every type of discomfort, except the emotional pain of checking your bank account. It started innocently. Neuropathic pain? Sure, gabapentin helps some people with that. But then things escalated. Someone said it made their back feel better. Another said it made them sleep. Another said it made them less annoyed by co-workers, which is not an FDA-approved use, but honestly should be. And suddenly, gabapentin became the medical equivalent of duct tape. Not designed for every job, but occasionally useful in surprising ways. Doctors began prescribing it with the same confidence medieval monks had when prescribing herbs that maybe help, maybe summon spirits. Pain is confusing. Gabapentin is gentle. They figured it was worth a shot. Let's walk through a typical appointment. You describe a mysterious ache. Not quite sharp, not quite dull, not quite injury, not quite imaginary, just persistent enough to ruin your day. The doctor nods gravely, asks if it hurts more when you sit, stand, walk, breathe, think, or exist. You say yes. The doctor looks thoughtful, briefly, then hands you gabapentin like it's a small, beige prayer. Because this is the pain mystery. You can't see it on an X-ray. Blood work won't pick it up. An MRI will simply show your spine looking like a Jenga tower built by interns. Pain without answers is the most terrifying kind, and gabapentin steps into that void like a substitute teacher. who wasn't given the lesson plans but will do her best regardless. Some people swear it helps instantly. They wake up less achy. Their nerves feel quieter. They feel less like their joints are playing percussion inside their body. Others feel nothing at all, and some feel weird, dizzy, floaty, confused, like someone gently unplugged their brain and plugged it back in at a slight angle. But still, people hold on to hope, because mystery pain is exhausting. It's waking up each day unsure which part of your body will send a passive-aggressive notification. It's Googling symptoms and immediately regretting it. It's trying heat packs, stretches, ergonomic chairs, essential oils, ice baths, turmeric supplements recommended by your aunt, and meditation apps narrated by people who clearly have never met pain personally. Gabapentin, for all its quirks, does something magical. It offers the possibility of relief, not a promise, just a chance. A whisper of, maybe this will help. And sometimes that's enough. This is why gabapentin has quietly become modern leech therapy. Not because it's archaic, but because it occupies the sacred medical category of we don't fully understand your pain, but we want to give you something that might make life easier. In ancient times, healers slapped leeches on you with confidence. Today, doctors hand you gabapentin with the same hopeful energy. And you, desperate for anything that could dial down the buzzing, burning, aching, shimmering chaos of human nerves, accept the bottle with reverence. Does it work? Sometimes. Sometimes not. Sometimes you forget why you took it in the first place, but the mystery persists. Gabapentin sits at the centre of our modern battle with discomfort, quietly offering its soft, sleepy little nudge toward relief. It may not cure everything, but when you're hurting, even maybe feels miraculous. Somehow, in a world where even blood work cost $800, every insurance company said, Gabapentin? Oh yeah, we'll cover the heck out of that. It's astonishing, really. These are the same insurance companies that deny coverage for inhalers, eye exams, and that one blood test that determines whether your body is full of iron or on the verge of collapsing like a medieval drawbridge. But gabapentin, free, practically raining from the sky. If insurance companies were medieval royalty, gabapentin would be the court jester they inexplicably adore. To understand this miracle, you must first understand insurance logic, which is like regular logic, but if it were dropped down a well and raised by wolves, they approve nothing. They deny everything. They love prior authorizations, those mysterious forms no doctor has ever filled out correctly on the first try. They love sending envelopes filled with paperwork so confusing it could be used to interrogate someone. And yet, when it comes to gabapentin, insurance companies wave their hand casually and say, take as much as you want, truly, indulge. Why? Because gabapentin, despite being useful, is also cheap. Cheap, cheap. Buy it in bulk at Costco next to the giant bags of frozen shrimp cheap. Insurance companies see that price tag and light up the way medieval peasants lit up when someone offered free bread. You first discover this blessing during a routine doctor's visit. They prescribe gabapentin for your nerve pain, and you prepare emotionally for the insurance battle. You brace for the phone calls, the hang-ups. The "your call is important to us" hold music that sounds like someone playing a flute underwater. But then nothing. Silence. Approval. You walk up to the pharmacy counter, clutching your wallet like a shield. The pharmacist rings up your medication and says the magic words, "Your total is $0.00." You blink. You stare. You wonder if this is a trick. You half expect a camera crew to jump out and reveal you're on a social experiment called Will They Take the Free Medication? Or sprint away confused. But no. Gabapentin is blessed, insurance approved, practically sponsored. This creates an interesting landscape. People who can't get their asthma inhalers covered can easily get 90 days of gabapentin. People whose antidepressants require prior authorizations are waved through effortlessly for gabapentin like they're VIP guests in the world's weirdest nightclub. And pharmacies, they've seen it all. They've watched customers cry when they find out insulin isn't covered, then accept free gabapentin as a consolation prize. In a way, insurance companies treat gabapentin like a peace offering. Sorry we didn't cover your MRI. Here, take this nerve pill at no charge and please don't riot. The strangest part is how consistent this is. Across plans, across states, across those bizarre insurance tiers named after metals, bronze, silver, gold, and whatever sad alloy your employer offered you. Even the worst plans cover gabapentin. The plans that usually pay for nothing but pamphlets and disappointment still cover gabapentin. It becomes a running joke among patients. Oh, your insurance won't cover physical therapy. Just take gabapentin. They denied your specialist. Try gabapentin. Your back hurts because you sit all day? Gabapentin. Your feelings hurt because life is stressful. I mean, technically not its purpose, but gabapentin. Insurance has accidentally created the illusion that gabapentin is magical. If a medication is free, it must be important. If it's important, it must work. Logically flawed, yes, but so is everything else about healthcare. This leads to a phenomenon where people who absolutely do not need gabapentin consider taking it simply because it feels like they're getting away with something. Free medication, in this economy, a rare celestial alignment indeed. Meanwhile, insurance companies continue approving it with suspicious enthusiasm, like they know something we don't. As if behind closed doors they whisper, "It's cheap, it's safe." It makes people slightly sleepy instead of angry. Let them have it. And honestly, you take the win. In a system where everything costs too much, works too slowly, and confuses everyone involved, gabapentin stands alone, quiet, humble, fully covered. A tiny beige island of peace in a sea of deductibles. You're handed a pill the size of a preschooler's crayon and told to just take 3 a day. This is less medicine and more a choking challenge. Because somewhere along the pharmaceutical production line, someone, possibly an engineer, possibly a medieval blacksmith who time-travelled into pill design, decided that gabapentin capsules should be enormous. Not regular enormous, not multivitamin enormous. These capsules are the titans of the pill world. They are the size of a bad decision, the size of regret, the size of something that feels like it should come with wheels. You stare at the capsule in your palm. It stares back. There's a moment of mutual distrust. Your first instinct is to ask, "Are you sure this goes inside me?" But the pharmacist nods politely, already aware you're about to begin a long and emotionally complicated relationship with pill-swallowing techniques that rival Olympic training. Let's walk through the process. You bring the capsule to your lips, take a big sip of water and tilt your head back like you're trying to pour hope down your throat. The capsule floats awkwardly, like a canoe on a lake. You attempt to swallow. Your throat says, "Absolutely not." The capsule says, "Good luck, peasant." You cough. Try again. Try sideways. Try pretending it's food. Try bargaining with the universe. Eventually you get it down. You feel victorious, triumphant. You've conquered the capsule. And then you remember you have to swallow 2 more today. Why are these pills so large? Science claims the size depends on the amount of powdered medication, plus fillers needed to deliver the correct dosage. But emotionally, it feels like the pills were designed by someone who assumed the human esophagus was a water slide, and the capsules don't get smaller as the dosage gets higher. Oh no, they multiply. The higher your dosage, the more you take. This is mathematically cruel. If medication worked like logic, a higher dose would mean fewer pills. Instead, you're given a prescription that reads, "Please swallow an entire handful of space marbles daily." people quickly develop strategies. Some cut the capsules open, which is forbidden, and also looks like you're preparing a line of artisanal pharmaceutical powder. Some drop the capsule into yogurt, which turns into a disturbing texture experiment. Others attempt the poppet behind the tongue and commit to the bit method, which works until the capsule bounces off your molars like a plastic slingshot. Some people don't struggle at all. These individuals swallow horse-sized supplements with no effort and are arguably superhuman. If society collapses, these will be the leaders. And then there's the moment you attempt to take the pill in public. You're at work. You have your water bottle. You discreetly shake a giant capsule into your hand. Suddenly a coworker approaches. You freeze, capsule resting in your palm like a shiny beige menace, and mutter something like, "Oh, this? It's just my vitamin." You turn away, swallow violently, and hope no one witnesses your brief brush with mortality. Children observe this process with fascination. Why is it so big, they ask. Doctors shrug. Pharmacists shrug. No one knows. It is the pill mystery. Even pets get smaller pills than Gabapentin users. Cats, tiny animals the size of baked potatoes, receive medication the size of a grain of rice. Meanwhile, your capsule looks like it contains ancient prophecies, and yet, despite the conundrum, you persist, day after day, swallowing these pharmaceutical torpedoes with the grace and determination of someone who has accepted that modern medicine is sometimes ridiculous but necessary. Because once the capsule finally makes the journey to your stomach, something magical happens. It works. It softens your nerve pain. It calms your restless buzzing. It helps you sleep. It becomes worth the daily swallowing ceremony. In a strange way, the struggle becomes part of the ritual, a daily reminder that relief sometimes comes in unwieldy packages, and that you, humble human, can conquer even the most intimidating capsule. If you can swallow gabapentin, you can swallow anything life throws at you. Gabapentin is not a sprinter. It is a slow, gentle gondola ride through your nervous system where you occasionally wonder if the boat is moving at all. This is the era of subtlety, an age when you swallow a capsule, sit patiently, and wait for a sensation so faint, so whisper-soft, that you begin questioning whether anything is happening, or if you merely imagine taking the pill. It's like watching paint dry on a cloudy day, or waiting for a medieval messenger pigeon to return with mail. The timeline is unclear, the outcome uncertain, and hope is the main ingredient. Day 1. You take the pill with the optimism of someone who has not yet been humbled by gabapentin's leisurely schedule. You expect fireworks, relief, a gentle choir of angels descending upon your aching nerves. Instead, you feel nothing. Maybe a bit of sleepiness. You open the fridge, forget why, close the fridge, remember you weren't hungry anyway. You go to bed thinking, well, maybe tomorrow. Day 3. You start noticing tiny things. A slightly softer buzz in your foot. A fractional decrease in irritation when your coworker breathes near you. You're not sure if it's the medication or just the placebo effect doing its best impression of usefulness. You take another dose. You wait. You Google, how long does gabapentin take to work? Which leads you down a rabbit hole of forums filled with cryptic messages like, for me it was 2 days, for me it was 2 months, and for me it just made me crave cucumbers. Tongue 7. This is when doubt begins to settle in. Not dramatic doubt. More like the gentle disappointment of realizing your houseplant will never be as vibrant as the ones on Instagram. You lie in bed, stare at the ceiling, and wonder if gabapentin is shy. Perhaps nervous about meeting your nervous system for the first time. Take your time, you whisper to it. No pressure. Day 14. Gabapentin begins to reveal itself, but very slowly. You wake up one morning and your nerves feel slightly quieter, like they're trying to signal you from the other room instead of screaming in your face. It's a reduction so slight you question whether it's real or just the power of positive thinking. You stand up too fast, you wobble. Ah, that's definitely real. Day 30. At 1 month, most people settle into a new normal, one where dizziness is a roommate and the line between I'm tired and the medication kicked in becomes beautifully blurry. You still don't know if gabapentin is working in the grand scheme of things, but you do know your nap's more dramatic and your tolerance for annoying noises is creeping upward. Your pain? It's maybe mild. Or maybe you're distracted by the constant puzzle of remembering whether you already took your dose. Day 45. You begin to notice something else. Tiny, almost invisible pockets of relief. Moments where your nerve pain doesn't dominate the entire orchestra of your body. For 10 seconds at a time, your legs feel quiet. For one fleeting moment, your back feels less like it's holding a grudge. You still question everything. Gabapentin, meanwhile, plods along, slow, steady, emotionally unavailable. Day 60. You're still waiting for the big epiphany, the grand moment when everything clicks and you rise from your chair in triumph. But gabapentin doesn't do epiphanies. It does gentle nudges, whisper-soft adjustments. It's like training a medieval donkey to walk a straight line. Progress is technically happening, but you must squint to see it. Day 90. And then, one day, without ceremony, you realize something. Your baseline has shifted. The pain that once roared now mumbles. The discomfort that once kept you awake now merely sighs in the background. You can stand longer, walk further, sit without wincing. It's not perfection. It's not even dramatic improvement. But it is movement. Slow, steady, gondola movement. And that's the thing about gabapentin. You never really feel the moment it starts working. You only notice the moment you miss it. At 3 a.m., you search as gabapentin normal and discover 4 million other people doing the exact same thing and quietly panicking together. This is how you know you've entered the sacred sleepless realm known as the late-night gabapentin Googlers support group, a community that does not officially exist, yet thrives every night between 1 a.m. and dawn. It's not a forum, not a Facebook group, not a physical meeting in a church basement with stale coffee. No, this group meets in the digital shadows, united by insomnia, vague tingles, and the deep human need to know whether anyone else feels like they're floating gently above their own eyebrows. You sit in bed, illuminated only by your phone screen, which is now brighter than the sun because you forgot to turn down the brightness before your midnight spiral. Your search history reads like the diary of someone trying to negotiate with their own nervous system. Gabapentin dizziness, permanent. Why does gabapentin make me crave crackers? Can gabapentin make you forget why you walked into the kitchen? Does gabapentin interact with ice cream? It does not. You are safe. You click on a forum link. Immediately you're greeted with strangers from all over the world, whispering their experiences into the glowing void. One person says gabapentin changed their life. Another says it changed nothing. Another says it made them sleep for 16 hours straight and wake up feeling like a freshly rebooted medieval scribe. A fourth claims it gave them vivid dreams about talking raccoons. No two experiences are the same. It's chaos, beautiful, soothing chaos. But there's comfort in the chaos, because at 3 a.m. you don't want clarity, you want community. You scroll further. Someone has typed, "Anyone else feel like they're walking through pudding?" Another responds, "Only on Tuesdays." A third person has posted a blurry photo of their cat staring judgmentally at them, captioned, "My cat thinks I'm acting weird." The cat probably does. Gabapentin has that effect. You start nodding along like you're attending a very quiet, very unhinged town hall meeting. Yes, you too have felt the sudden urge to take a nap mid-sentence. Yes, you too have tried to remember if you took your dose and then immediately forgotten again. Yes, you too have walked into a room and stood there like a confused ghost. And that's the beauty of the late-night Gabapentin inquiry spiral. It reveals that you are profoundly, aggressively not alone. There are millions of you, night owls, insomniacs, anxious Googlers, and curious accidental philosophers, floating through the darkness, comforting one another in a digital lullaby of shared side effects. At some point, you stumble into the subculture of Gabapentin memes, pictures of sleepy sloth saying day one on Gabapentin, a cartoon of someone face down on their bed with the caption, "Accidentally took my nighttime dose at 5 p.m. A heroic stick figure whispering, "I stood up without wobbling today." You laugh softly, not because the joke is particularly brilliant, but because it feels like these strangers truly understand you, perhaps better than your doctor does. Then you hit the inevitable contradiction parade. Half the commenters say Gabapentin kicks in instantly. The other half say it takes 6 weeks. One person claims they felt it months before they even started taking it. No one agrees. No one knows. Everyone is doing their best. You check the clock. It's now 3:47 a.m. You tell yourself you'll stop Googling. You do not stop. Instead, you dive deeper into medical articles written in language only medieval alchemists could understand. You read clinical studies until your brain whispers, "No more. Please, please stop." Finally, as the exhaustion sets in, you put the phone down. The room grows dark again. A soft dizziness washes over you, not alarming, just Gabapentin gently reminding you it exists. You sink into your pillow like a stone into a pond. And in that hazy moment before sleep finally claims you, you feel oddly comforted. Somewhere out there, millions of other people are doing the exact same thing, scrolling, wondering, comparing notes, asking gently panicked questions into the night. A tiny, strange, digital support group. And now you're part of it. You know you shouldn't mix it with wine, but then you remember your job, your schedule, and the sound your neighbour makes when he mows at 7 a.m. on Saturdays. This is the beginning of the great internal expedition known as the Gabapentin versus alcohol debate, a journey that takes place entirely in your mind and yet feels as dramatic as a medieval quest across stormy seas. On one side, the noble voice of reason, be responsible, follow the instructions, protect your nervous system. On the other, the voice of emotion, you had a day, a long one. A glass of wine is practically medicinal. You stand in your kitchen staring at the bottle opener like it's a forbidden artifact, a chalice, a relic you absolutely should not touch and yet are drawn to with magnetic inevitability because you are a human being with stress and taste buds. Your Gabapentin bottle sits beside the sink, judging you silently from behind its child-proof cap. The printed warning label glows with condescension under the fluorescent lights. Avoid alcohol. Avoid, not never. A suggestion, really. And what is life if not a series of controlled gambles? You pour a small glass, a humble amount. Something that says, "I am responsible," and also deeply exhausted. You take a sip. You wait for the consequences that every forum comment and every overworked pharmacist has warned you about. Nothing happens. You begin to feel smug, invincible, the pioneer of a new frontier. Then slowly the effects begin to blend. Suddenly you don't feel drunk, not really. You feel soft. You feel like someone has turned your skeleton into warm bread dough. Your limbs loosen. Your thoughts drift. Your responsibilities become floaty. Little balloons floating somewhere above your head where you can't quite reach them. You're not sure if this is dangerous or mildly enjoyable. You sit down just to be safe, although sitting is now more of a controlled collapse. This is where the expedition gets interesting, because gabapentin and alcohol don't exactly clash. They collaborate, quietly, sinisterly, like two co-workers who don't talk much but produce extremely questionable results when forced to share a project. You begin to feel dreamy, slow, like you're trying to navigate your living room through a shallow lake. You stand up to refill your glass, and suddenly you're possessed by the walking style of a newborn horse. Your knees work, kind of. Your balance is theoretical. The furniture stares at you with concern. You realize now why the warning exists, but you're already committed. You drink water, lots of it. You breathe slowly. You try to remember if this is what every person on the internet meant when they warned, "It hits different." You realize your phone is across the room, and that is simply too far to walk. Meanwhile, your brain splits into two personalities. Personality A, this was a mistake. Personality B, or was it self-care? But it's too late for philosophy. The next morning arrives with the grace of a falling anvil. You wake up feeling like your brain has been gently kneaded like dough. Your mouth is dry, your limbs are heavy. You open one eye and immediately regret it. The light is too bright, the air is too loud. Everything is too everything. This is not a hangover. This is a gabapentin overlaid hangover, a rare, delicate beast. You move slowly. You drink water. You vow never to mix the two again, until inevitably you do, because life keeps happening. Jobs keep jobbing. Neighbours keep mowing at dawn. And every once in a while the day ends and you find yourself staring at the same bottle of wine, replaying the same familiar debate. And that is why the warning label, though correct, is also tragically optimistic. It assumes humans are rational creatures who read the instructions once and comply forever. But you're not a knight in an ancient medical order. You're a modern person with stress and a refrigerator and a bottle opener within reach, and thus the expedition continues. Your thoughts, once sharp and productive, now float around like dandelion fluff caught in a gentle breeze of weight. What room am I in? Welcome to the gabapentin fog, an experience that is neither alarming nor dangerous but rather gently disorienting, like wandering through your own life with the mental clarity of a Victorian poet who took one too many laudanum drops. Nothing is wrong exactly. Nothing is urgent. You just can't remember what you were doing, or why you walked into the kitchen, or whether you already brushed your teeth. You stare at a mug you're holding, fully unsure if you poured anything into it or if you've been standing there for 7 minutes contemplating the concept of mugs. This fog isn't dramatic, it's not cinematic, it's not even particularly inconvenient most of the time. It's more like your brain occasionally puts up a tiny "be back in 5 minutes" sign and steps out for a soft pill-induced sabbatical. Gabapentin doesn't erase memories, it just loosens them. Your thoughts sway gently like medieval laundry on a clothesline. That email you meant to send? It exists somewhere. The appointment you were sure was today, possibly tomorrow, or last week. Hard to say. Details become optional. Deadlines become suggestions. Time becomes a long, stretchy piece of taffy that you're pretty sure used to have structure. Sometimes it's charming. You'll be telling a story, mid-sentence, when the plot wanders off without you. You stand there blinking as your audience waits. Where was I? You ask, hoping someone else remembers. No one does. You all give up and eat snacks instead. Other times the fog sneaks up during mundane tasks. You open the fridge, stare inside, and the cold air touches your face like the hand of an old friend. But you cannot remember why you came. Milk? Cheese? Purpose? You close the fridge. 3 steps away, the realization hits. You were getting water. You turn back. You forget again. You resign yourself to being slightly dehydrated forever. Walking through your house becomes a whimsical treasure hunt, designed by someone who's never played a treasure hunt before. You go to your bedroom to grab your shoes, but instead pick up a pen. You carry the pen to the living room and realize you meant to get your charger. On the way to the charger, you notice a sock on the floor and become emotionally invested in returning it to the laundry basket. The shoes? Lost to time. And then there's the repeated question phenomenon. You ask someone what day it is, they answer. 2 minutes later, you ask again, not because you forgot the answer, but because you forgot asking the question entirely. You're like an NPC stuck in an infinite dialogue loop. People around you adapt, answering patiently, as if living with someone who time travels in 30-second increments. But here's the beautiful part. The fog is peaceful, soft, comforting. It wraps around your brain like a warm blanket. Your mind is quieter. The anxious buzzing is down to a hum. The world feels slightly padded, as if your thoughts are being handled by a gentle cosmic librarian who whispers, "Shh, let's not worry about that right now." Even the mistakes are soft. You put your phone in the pantry, you refrigerate your keys, you set your glasses down in the freezer. These aren't crises, these are whimsical footnotes in the saga of me on Gabapentin, moments you laugh about later while rescuing your frozen spectacles. And here's the twist. While you may forget little things, you notice big things more deeply. The softness of blankets, the taste of tea, the sunlight on your kitchen floor, the quiet moments you usually rush past. The fog slows you down just enough to see the world in a gentler light. Because Gabapentin isn't trying to confuse you, it's trying to give your nervous system a vacation. Sometimes that includes your short-term memory tagging along. Some people take Gabapentin and become enlightened monks who sleep like weighted blankets. Others feel absolutely nothing except resentment. This is the great divide, the Gabapentin split, the fork in the nerve-soothing road. It's astonishing how one tiny capsule can yield such dramatically different destinies. On one side, you have the people who take their first 300 milligram pill and immediately ascend to a higher plane of existence. You ask how they feel, and they respond with things like, "I have never known such peace," or "I finally slept through the night for the first time since the Bush administration." These are the Gabapentin disciples. They speak of the medication with soft reverence, like they are describing a gentle forest spirit who tucks them in each evening. Then, on the opposite end, you have the Gabapentin skeptics. These are the people who stare down at their pill bottle like it personally betrayed them. They take the capsules for weeks, months even, waiting for any sign that their pain might ease, their nerves might settle, or their sleep might stop resembling the tossing of a medieval ship in a storm. And yet nothing, not a single nerve calms, not a single thought slows. They are unchanged, except now mildly irritated. And in the middle stands the pharmacist, handing the medication to both groups with the same neutral smile, silently thinking, "Good luck. Truly. I have no idea what's going to happen to you." The Gabapentin success stories are wild. Some people describe it like it's divine intervention. I slept for 12 hours straight. My anxiety dissolved into a fine mist. I no longer feel like my legs are sending me angry letters. You listen to them speak and imagine their nervous systems reclining in tiny lounge chairs, sunglasses on, sipping microscopic mojitos. These are the lucky ones, the people whose brains saw Gabapentin approach and said, "Ah yes, this is the vibe we've been waiting for." And then there are the others, the ones who feel nothing, no dizziness, no calmness, no fog, no relief. They take the pill faithfully every night like they're paying a toll, hoping to cross into the land of comfort, only to find the gate remains firmly closed. They reread the instructions, they Google the dosage, they check the expiration date to make sure they weren't given capsules filled with sand. They return to the doctor and say, "It's not working." The doctor, shrugging with the casual optimism of someone choosing a restaurant without reading reviews, simply increases the dose. Try more, they say. Just keep going. You'll feel it. But some never do. They walk through life unchanged, except for a faint sense of betrayal and a medicine cabinet filled with orange bottles that might as well be filled with good intentions. The tension between these two groups creates a kind of modern folklore. When you mention Gabapentin in public, someone nearby will always say, "Oh my gosh, that drug changed everything for me." And someone else will jump in immediately with, "Really? It did absolutely nothing for me. Nothing. I think it actually annoyed my nerves." Then you nod politely while your brain whispers, "Great. So I could become a sleepy monk or an angry toaster. Excellent." The truth is that gabapentin is a deeply personal experience. It's like adopting a very small, invisible roommate who may or may not help you organise your life. For some, the roommate quietly cleans up their entire emotional living room. For others, it sleeps on the couch and contributes nothing. But here's the thing. Both reactions are valid. Both are normal. The human nervous system is a deeply dramatic structure, moody, unpredictable, full of opinions, and gabapentin simply tries its best to soothe it. Sometimes the nerves respond. Sometimes they ignore the attempt entirely and continue behaving like medieval peasants rioting outside a castle. In the end, whether gabapentin transforms your life or leaves you feeling mildly inconvenienced, the journey itself becomes part of the story. You tried something. You sought relief. You participated in one of the strangest communal medical experiences of the 21st century. And who knows, maybe your nervous system is just fashionably late to the party. You go to pick up your medication and discover your veterinarian has prescribed the same thing for your anxious Labrador. Now you and your pet have matching prescriptions like some kind of Walgreens-based power couple. It's a surreal moment standing at the pharmacy counter, clutching two identical orange bottles, one with your name on it, and one with an animal graphic printed discreetly in the corner. You look at your dog, who is sitting proudly in the car outside, unaware that he is now participating in the same pharmaceutical journey as you. You're not just bonded emotionally, you're bonded neurologically. This is when you learn a strange truth. Gabapentin is not just for humans. It is for every creature in the kingdom who experiences mysterious pain, anxiety, or post-surgical sassiness. Somewhere out there, a zoo tiger is probably on it, a parrot, a goat with arthritis. Gabapentin is the great unifier, a bridge between species, a cross-cultural ambassador of calm. Your vet explains it casually. He's been a little anxious, they say, as if your dog hasn't been having full-blown emotional crises over absolutely nothing. Loud noises, terrifying. The mailman, criminal. A leaf blowing across the driveway, a sign of imminent doom. Your dog is one small inconvenience away from filing stress-related paperwork. So the vet hands you a prescription for gabapentin. You nod, pretending this is normal, but internally you're thinking, is my dog nervous? Is my dog me? When you get home, your dog takes his capsule with the enthusiasm of someone who will swallow literally anything if you hide it inside a piece of cheese. Meanwhile, you have to sit there psyching yourself up to choke down a capsule the size of a toy submarine. Already your dog is handling this journey better than you are. Soon enough the effects begin. Your once high-strung Labrador becomes soft around the edges, blinking slowly like a sleepy philosopher. He sits on the couch gently, elegantly, like he has discovered inner peace through guided meditation. Meanwhile, you're across the room wobbling slightly while trying to remember what you were about to say. You two are now the same. Cats, on the other hand, respond differently. If a dog becomes mellow, a cat on gabapentin becomes the feline equivalent of a medieval monk taking a vow of silence. The same creature who once sprinted across your house at 3 a.m. now gazes at the wall with the solemn wisdom of someone reflecting on past lives. You try to pet them, and instead of slapping your hand away with their usual disdain, they simply allow it. You blink. They blink. The universe holds its breath, and veterinarians prescribe gabapentin for nearly everything. Anxiety, nerve pain, surgery, recovery. General vibes, as one vet put it. Cats who become demons at grooming appointments. Dogs who develop existential dread during thunderstorms. Eventually, you start running into other pet owners who are also administering gabapentin. At the dog park, someone whispers, "Oh yeah, my beagle doodle is on it too." It begins to feel like a secret society, a neighborhood alliance of slightly drowsy animals whose owners bond over dosage schedules and treat hiding techniques. Then there's the moment you go to refill your pet's gabapentin, and the pharmacist calls out the name loudly. Prescription for muffins. Everyone in line turns to see who or what muffins is. You raise your hand. It's you. You're Muffin's representative. But the best part, when both you and your pet accidentally take your doses at the same time. Suddenly you're both blinking slowly on the couch, wrapped in the same mellow fog. You reach over and pet your dog. He leans into your hand. Neither of you feels pain. Neither of you feels anxiety. You are two simple creatures floating through the same warm neurological soup. Matching shirts? No. Matching medications? Apparently yes. And honestly, it's adorable. Because nothing says companionship quite like sharing a prescription drug with your pet. A little reminder that in this chaotic world, we're all just creatures with nerves trying our best to calm down. Eventually your body adapts, like an overworked medieval peasant who just stops responding to cold, except instead of frostbite, it's neuropathy. This is the dance no one prepares you for. The slow, inevitable, mildly insulting moment when your nervous system looks at gabapentin, this medication that once lulled your nerve endings into peaceful silence, and says, "Yeah, I'm over it." It doesn't happen all at once. There is no dramatic fanfare, no sudden switch. It's more like a relationship cooling off. At first, everything was magical. Fewer nerve zaps, a reasonable amount of sleep, maybe even a moment where you thought, "Wow, I can function again." But then, gradually, your body becomes too good at gabapentin. It learns your moves. It anticipates the capsule's arrival, like a bored cat who no longer reacts to the treat bag shaking. The first few weeks, gabapentin felt like a cozy weighted blanket draped gently across your nervous system. At month 2, you're still cozy. By month 4, the blanket is now more of a thin dish towel. Your nerves becoming chatty again. Your pain creeping back in like a medieval landlord demanding grain taxes. You begin noticing little signs. You stand up one morning and your back whispers, "Hey, remember me." You lie down at night and feel a familiar burning in your legs, like your nerves are trying to send you postcards from a place called "We're Not Suppressed Anymore." You take your dose and wait for the fog, the calm, the gentle, numbing hum, and instead you feel exactly the same. This is when you enter the tolerance tango. A tango is a structured dance, dramatic and precise. Your tango, however, looks like slow-motion confusion. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, a wobble, and then some light Googling at 2 a.m. You search phrases like gabapentin stopped working, gabapentin tolerance, and why does my body betray me? All of which lead you to online forums full of people debating dosage like medieval scholars, arguing about the geometry of angels. Then comes the doctor's appointment. You describe your symptoms. Your doctor nods empathetically, perhaps a little too empathetically, like they've already decided to increase your dosage before you finish speaking. They tap on their keyboard with practiced resignation. Let's bump it up. These are the 3 words that define the tolerance tango, because this medication does not scale gracefully. It scales like a staircase that someone keeps adding steps to in real time. 300 milligrams becomes 600. 600 becomes 900. 900 becomes 1,200. Before you know it, you're taking enough gabapentin to theoretically sedate a medium-sized donkey, and your body is still shrugging like, cute. Anyway, meanwhile, your pharmacist hands you a new bottle with a look that says, I see you've reached the next level of the video game. The capsules multiply. Your pill organizer grows more elaborate. You start cutting your doses across the day like you're splitting rent with a roommate. All the while, your body keeps adapting. It doesn't hate gabapentin, oh no. It simply becomes unimpressed, like a medieval peasant who has seen too many winters to react when snow falls. Nerves that once responded dramatically to the medication now barely yawn. There are moments of hope. You might get a day where the pain is quieter again, where gabapentin and your nervous system temporarily reconcile like exes grabbing coffee. But the next day, the tango resumes. Two partners circling each other endlessly, you and your stubborn biology. And here's the twist. Developing tolerance doesn't mean gabapentin failed. It means your body learned, adapted, recalibrated. Humans have been doing this forever, building resilience to hardship, noise, weather, stress, and yes, medication. Your nervous system is many things, but passive is not one of them. So you keep dancing, adjusting, tweaking, reassessing. You learn to navigate the changing rhythm of relief and frustration. Because even if gabapentin stops dazzling your nerves like it once did, it still shows up, still tries, still offers whatever calm it can. And in a body full of unpredictable sensations, sometimes that effort alone is enough to keep dancing. Somehow this medication has become popular enough to appear in whispered parking lot trades between soccer moms who definitely have a favourite reusable grocery bag. This is the suburban underground, not dangerous, not gritty, not remotely intimidating. It's more like a polite speakeasy where everyone drives a hybrid, but make no mistake, the energy is real. The parking lot outside the elementary school becomes neutral ground. A place where parents wearing pastel athleisure approach each other with the caution and discretion of medieval merchants exchanging rare spices. Someone cracks open the trunk of their SUV, not for anything dramatic, but to reveal a Costco-sized pack of juice boxes, and beneath it, a stray bottle of gabapentin they forgot to return to the medicine cabinet. Another mum approaches, scanning the scene like a hawk trying to spot gluten at a bake sale. They exchange nods, code words, a conversation that sounds like nothing and means everything. Rough week? Oh, you have no idea, you still on the 300 says. Went up to the 600s. Doctor said I was tolerating it too well. Whatever that means, it's all very calm, very civilized. There is no danger here except the risk of being spotted by someone who runs the PTA newsletter and will immediately turn this into a thinly veiled cautionary anecdote titled, Are We Still a Community? But the so-called black market isn't about crime, it's about convenience, mild rebellion. The quiet acknowledgement that everyone in suburbia is tired, overworked, underrested, and one stressful dentist appointment away from snapping a pool noodle in half out of sheer emotional exhaustion. Gabapentin, being cheap, covered by insurance, and mildly effective for 1,000 unrelated issues, accidentally became the unofficial currency of suburban solidarity. Picture a cul-de-sac, a calm evening, sprinklers clicking softly in the distance. A dad in cargo shorts waves to his neighbour, who waves back while discreetly slipping a gabapentin bottle into her tote bag between a planner and 2 granola bars. Neither speaks. Both understand. At soccer practice, the gossip is rich. I hear she's on the high dose. Really? Yes. It's why she seems so serene. Should we ask her for some? No, you have to wait until she offers. It's etiquette. Meanwhile, the kids run around wildly. unaware that their parents are building a casual underground pharmaceutical network that looks less like crime and more like a craft circle that got slightly out of hand. No one is snorting anything. No one is selling anything for cash. It's all whispers, favours, and the occasional text that reads, "Hey, do you still have that extra bottle from last month? Asking for my cousin." You observe the ritual from a safe distance. Every suburban Gabapentin exchange involves 3 steps. The whisper, a secretive mention during small talk. "My back's been acting up again," or "Doctor upped my dose, so I have leftovers if you ever you know." The offer, a gentle, almost apologetic gesture. "I can give you a few if you want to see if it helps," said with the same energy as offering a neighbour some zucchinis from your garden. The discreet transfer, the passing of a tiny envelope or recycled Ziploc bag, usually disguised within a larger, much more normal object, like a Tupperware container of muffins. No one admits to participating. Everyone participates. And then there's always one rogue dad who takes things too seriously. He stands in the corner of the parking lot wearing sunglasses at dusk, whispering, "You looking for Gabbies?" To absolutely no one. Everyone ignores him. Suburbia has rules. But the funniest part is that nobody in this black market ecosystem is doing anything reckless. They're not popping handfuls of capsules or selling them for profit. They're simply sharing the most boring, most benign medication known to mankind, one that makes people slightly sleepy and slightly less annoyed by folding laundry. It's not rebellion, it's community. A strange, sleepy little network of adults who are just trying to get through the day with fewer nerve zaps and more patience for soccer cleats left in the doorway. And honestly, in suburbia, that's the closest thing to organised crime you'll ever find. Miss one pill and suddenly your legs feel like someone installed Bluetooth malfunction mode. It happens innocently, harmlessly even. You go about your day, proud of yourself for completing errands, drinking water, remembering birthdays, existing in the world without too much chaos. Then, around mid-afternoon, something feels off. A tiny vibration in your calves, a strange buzzing behind your knees, a subtle but growing suspicion that your limbs have begun communicating through static. You freeze, you think, you look at the clock, and that's when it hits you with the soft, devastating clarity of a medieval monk illuminating a manuscript. You forgot your dose. Not a catastrophic forgetting, not a dramatic forgetting, just one of those gentle oversights that happens when you've been living life like a normal human, instead of a perfectly calibrated pill-taking automaton. But gabapentin doesn't respond kindly to gentle oversights. Gabapentin is needy, like a houseplant that wilts the moment you forget it exists. At first, the wobble is subtle. You stand up from the couch and suddenly your legs feel like they've been assembled by someone who misunderstood the instruction manual. One knee bends too much, the other one not enough. You walk across the room and realise your gait has become interpretive dance. Your pet watches with deep concern. Then comes the sensation, the one that feels like tiny electrical sprites are zipping around inside your limbs, poking at your nerves with medieval spears. It's not painful. It's not dangerous. It's just vibrationally chaotic. Like someone set your nervous system to airplane mode but forgot to reconnect the Bluetooth. You try to remember when you last took your pill. Yesterday, this morning, last week. Time becomes soft, wobbly, elastic. You stare at your pill organizer like it's a cryptic archaeological artifact, trying to decode whether Tuesday's compartment was emptied by you or by a shadow version of you who acts on instinct. Then the mood shift hits. Not emotional, more existentially confused. You attempt to complete a task and find yourself standing in the middle of a room, holding a sock and a fork, unsure how either object relates to your life. You open your laptop and forget your password. You close your laptop, convinced technology is now hostile toward you personally. All the while, your legs keep wobbling, not enough to fall, just enough to ruin your dignity. This is the withdrawal wobble. Doctors call it discontinuation sensitivity, a phrase that sounds boring until you experience it. The internet calls it Gabapentin brain static. You call it what is happening to me, and why do my shins feel like they're buffering? The fix is simple. Take your missed dose. But taking it doesn't resolve things instantly. No, Gabapentin comes back online slowly, like medieval Europe crawling out of a dark age. It takes time, patience, hydration. The wobble lingers, tapping on the door of your nervous system like an overly enthusiastic acquaintance, reminding you to be responsible. Meanwhile, you make promises. Big promises. Sweeping promises. I will never forget another dose. I will set alarms. I will tattoo my dosage schedule on my arm if I must. But later that evening, when life is busy and chaotic and the dog needs a bath and your inbox is exploding, you will inevitably forget again. Because you are human, and humans forget things all the time. Gabapentin, however, does not forget you. It demands structure, ritual, precision. In exchange, it offers calm, softness, relief. But miss a dose, forgo the ritual? Forgo. And suddenly, you're walking through your living room like a marionette controlled by someone who just drank 3 espressos. Eventually, the medication eases back into your system. The buzzing fades. Your legs return to factory settings. The day continues as normal. But the memory remains. A quiet reminder that your nervous system has opinions now. This is the withdrawal wobble. Harmless, temporary, mildly humiliating, and absolutely unforgettable. Or at least unforgettable until you forget your dose again. You learn, reluctantly, that gabapentin isn't actually a GABA medication at all. It just cosplays as one. This is the moment your brain sits you down and says, listen, I know you thought you understood this pill, but everything you believe is a lie. Because gabapentin, despite its suspiciously GABA-sounding name, does not affect GABA receptors. It does not increase GABA. It does not behave like GABA. It simply shows up to the neurochemical party dressed like GABA, waves politely, and everyone just accepts it. You feel betrayed. You feel confused. You feel like a medieval scholar discovering that the earth might not actually rest on the shell of a cosmic turtle. Gabapentin's true mechanism is weirder and far less glamorous. It binds to a subunit of voltage-gated calcium channels, reducing excitatory neurotransmitter release. You hear that explanation and think, ah, yes, of course, while absolutely nothing inside your brain understands what that means. It sounds like someone trying to describe plumbing using astronomy metaphors. But essentially, gabapentin walks up to your nerves, those excitable, opinionated little creatures, and gently asks them to calm down. Not through force, not through seduction, more like a friendly librarian silencing rowdy students. Still, the betrayal lingers. You joined forums, you read posts, you heard rumours. Everyone insisted gabapentin boosts GABA like some kind of neurochemical bubble bath, and now you find out it's more of a calcium channel consultant, strolling into your nervous system with a clipboard and a high-visibility vest. But why is it called gabapentin then, you ask? And the universe shrugs. This is where the neuroscience spirals. You start searching diagrams, terrifying multicoloured sketches that look like cartography for a fictional fantasy land, where nerve impulses journey across synapses like pilgrims. You stare at labels such as alpha-2 delta subunit and presynaptic inhibition and pretend you're absorbing information. In truth, you're simply admiring shapes. Then comes the historical wrinkle. Gabapentin was originally designed to mimic GABA's structure, so scientists could slip it across the brain's protective barrier. It's not GABA, but it dresses like GABA to get into clubs GABA isn't allowed into. It's the pharmaceutical version of someone wearing a fake VIP badge to sneak backstage at a concert. Once inside, though, it doesn't do what the badge implies. It wanders off and starts reorganizing calcium channels instead. Your nervous system watches in bewilderment. Calcium channels blink. GABA receptors shrug. Your neurons mumble, "I don't know what this guy's deal is, but he seems harmless enough." And yet, somehow, it works. Sometimes spectacularly, sometimes barely, sometimes not at all, and sometimes so unpredictably that neuroscientists tilt their heads like confused dogs whenever they talk about it. There's something charming about a medication whose entire identity is a misunderstanding. Gabapentin walks through the brain like a medieval traveller passing through villages with a borrowed surname. Nobody questions it, nobody stops it, they just assume it belongs because it acts confident enough. Meanwhile, you continue your scientific journey, reading explanations such as, it modulates excitatory neurotransmission, it decreases neuronal hyperexcitability, it dampens ectopic discharge firing. You nod, pretending your brain isn't silently chanting, "What does any of this mean?" Eventually, you accept that gabapentin science is not meant to be fully understood by mortals. Even neuroscientists, people who willingly study cells that look like electrical spiderwebs, frequently say things like, "We think it works this way," which is academic code for "reclassified." And honestly, that makes you feel better. Because gabapentin isn't elegant, it isn't precise, it isn't some sleek, sharp-edged neurochemical scalpel. It's a clumsy, well-meaning medieval herbalist wandering into your nervous system with a basket of herbs and a hopeful attitude, gently telling your overexcited neurons to please, for the love of all that is holy, relax. It's messy, it's mysterious, it's misunderstood, but in its strange, roundabout way, it gets the job done. This is the neuroscience nobody asked for. Confusing, slightly inaccurate, mildly chaotic, and somehow exactly perfect for a medication that's been winging it since the day it was invented. You start taking 100 milligrams, blink suddenly, you're on 1,800 milligrams and a prayer. This is the era every gabapentin user enters eventually. The moment you realise your doctor has been slowly escalating your dosage the way medieval castle engineers kept adding extra stones just to be safe. You swear you were only supposed to take one tiny capsule at night, a baby dose, a beginner dose, something so mild it practically whispered. And then, somewhere along the way, your prescription multiplied like rabbits. Now you're swallowing handfuls of capsules like a confused Victorian child who wandered into a candy store with no supervision. The escalation never feels dramatic in the moment. It's subtle, sneaky. One appointment at a time, you show up complaining that your nerve pain is still humming faintly, and your doctor tilts their head, squints at their screen, and says the phrase every gabapentin user eventually hears, "Let's bump you up a bit." A bit. Such a harmless phrase. But that bit slowly becomes a staircase you climb without noticing. 100 milligrams becomes 300 milligrams. 300 becomes 600. 600 becomes 900 twice a day. Then, somehow, you blink, and you're on a dose that could sedate a medieval warhorse. Meanwhile, your doctor sits across from you calmly, not even slightly concerned. They say things like, "Gabapentin is very forgiving," or "There's a lot of room to increase," or the ominously casual, "We can keep going higher if you need." Higher? Higher than this? You're one appointment away from taking capsules the size of artisanal loaves of bread, and every dose increase comes with the same medical script. "Doctor, how's the pain?" "You? A little better. But doctor, let's add more." You start wondering if your doctor is being coached by gabapentin itself, as if the medication is leaning over their shoulder whispering, "They can handle a little more. Do it. Bump them. One more level." To be fair, the science behind these increases is logical, sort of. Gabapentin has a weird absorption curve where the more you take, the less efficiently your body absorbs it. This means you take more to get the same effect, which feels suspiciously like bad design. This is the equivalent of pouring water into a funnel that starts rejecting water the moment it gets too full. But your doctor doesn't burden you with these details. Instead, they gently pat their keyboard, smile warmly, and hand you a prescription that looks like instructions to summon a demon. Your pharmacist, on the other hand, sees the dosage and raises one eyebrow so slowly and so high, it becomes a medical opinion in itself. You know they aren't judging you, but the look says, you've reached the advanced levels. At home, the pill bottles multiply. Your organizer goes from a cute, simple Monday to Sunday strip to a fold-out contraption with 14 compartments and hinges like a transformer. You begin planning your day around dose timing, hoping to avoid the dreaded Gabapentin dip, that moment when you suddenly feel like a sleepy sea captain swaying gently on the deck of a quiet ship. And the funniest part? Even at 1,800 milligrams a day, the effect is still subtle. Your pain is quieter, gentler, a bit more tolerable, but not gone. Gabapentin isn't here with a sword to slay your pain dragon, it's here with a broom to gently nudge it into another room. Which is why, at your next appointment, your doctor inevitably asks, do you think there's still room for improvement? And you already know what comes next. Another bump, another level, another ascension in the gabapentin hierarchy. One day you will look back at your innocent 100 milligram self and whisper, sweet summer child, you had no idea. But despite the ever-increasing dosage, the slow escalation, the quiet medical math you don't fully understand, gabapentin keeps showing up, keeps trying, keeps nudging your nerves toward peace. And as long as it helps even a little, you'll keep taking it. Because by now, you and gabapentin are in this together. For better, for foggier, for higher milligrams. Technically, yes. But the real question is, should you? This is the crossroads every gabapentin user encounters eventually. You take your dose, feel that delicious wave of calm sliding over your nervous system like a warm quilt, and then, tragically, you remember you have somewhere to be. Somewhere that requires operating a 2-ton steel machine in a world full of traffic chaos, questionable yellow lights, and pedestrians who cross the street like medieval peasants wandering into dragon territory without fear. And so the debate begins. On one side, responsibility. You understand the risks. Gabapentin makes you wobbly. It sometimes makes your thoughts soft, like marshmallows left in the sun. You know that driving requires reflexes, awareness, a functioning sense of direction, and ideally the ability to remember which pedal does what. On the other side, reality. You have errands, you have obligations, you have a life. You're a modern human in a sprawling civilization that forces you to drive even when your brain feels like warm pudding. You sit in your parked car contemplating your existence, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand holding a water bottle, your eyes unfocused, drifting across the horizon like a sleepy lighthouse scanning the sea. Are you safe to drive? Yes, probably. Technically, maybe. But also should you? Because gabapentin doesn't impair you like alcohol or sedatives. It doesn't reduce you to chaos. It simply softens you. Your reaction times stretch ever so slightly. Your attention becomes philosophical. Instead of thinking, the light is green, time to go, you think, what does green even symbolize? Growth? Renewal? Should I hurry? Should I savor the moment? You start the car. You put it in gear. You check your mirrors like you're defusing a bomb. You pull onto the road with the focus of a medieval archer aiming at a distant target. Every sensation becomes magnified. The hum of your tires feels poetic. Your blinker feels heroic. You grip the wheel at 10 and 2 like you're about to pilot a spacecraft into orbit. Then, halfway down the street, it happens. You forget why you left the house, not in a panicked way. More in an airy, whimsical, what quest was I on kind of way. Were you going to the store, to work, to return those overdue library books you definitely haven't cracked open. Your destination becomes optional, philosophical, a conceptual thought experiment rather than a concrete goal. You keep driving anyway, at a gentle pace, a peaceful pace, a no one should ever be behind me right now pace. At stoplights, you sit perfectly still, staring straight ahead, looking like someone contemplating the nature of time. People in other cars glance over. You do not blink. You are one with the road. A highway monk. Meanwhile, your senses undergo a mild rearrangement. Your peripheral vision becomes slightly too poetic. The road signs blur just enough to make you squint. Your depth perception takes a tiny vacation, and everything feels just a little bit floaty. Not unsafe, not dangerous, just floaty. As though your car is gently hovering 1 inch above the asphalt, gliding through suburbia on a mystical nerve-soothing carpet. And that's why the philosophical debate exists, because legally you can drive. Logically you can drive, but spiritually, metaphysically, somatically, perhaps you should not. Eventually you arrive at your destination, miraculously, safely, and 10 minutes slower than normal. You park with intense concentration, double check you've actually put the car in park, and take a deep breath. You step out of the car like someone stepping off a gently rocking boat, and in that moment of stabilizing yourself on the pavement, you whisper to yourself, next time maybe Uber. Because the truth is simple, gabapentin does not stop you from driving. It just turns driving into a soft, contemplative, slightly wobbly odyssey. Every online thread contains one person who says gabapentin saved their life, one who says it ruined their life, and 12 who drifted off mid-sentence because the medication kicked in. Welcome to the digital wilderness. This is where humanity logs on late at night, armed with symptoms, half-baked theories, and the burning need to hear someone else say, yes, that happens to me too. Online patient forums are not orderly. They're not reliable. They're not moderated by anyone with medical training. They're a swirling tornado of anecdotes, contradictions, and people who stop typing for 14 hours because they fell asleep on their keyboard. When you first arrive, usually at 1 a.m., because you couldn't tell if your foot felt tingly or emotionally confused, you scroll cautiously. The first comment is from someone who claims gabapentin completely restored their quality of life. They write paragraphs describing how they now sleep through the night, no longer feel nerve zaps, and have become a calmer, better version of themselves. It reads like a religious conversion story. You feel hope. Then, immediately below it, someone else posts a 600-word manifesto about how gabapentin turned them into a sleepy cryptid who wanders their house at odd hours and once tried to microwave their wallet. They swear the medication ruined their life, ruined their memory, ruined their ability to understand how curtains work. You feel fear. Then you scroll farther and discover the real stars of the forum, the half-sentences, messages like, gabapentin really helped my, it's good, but sometimes I don't know if it's normal to feel. The posts just stop. No punctuation, no closure, just silence. You check timestamps, all posted late at night, all abandoned mid-thought. The gabapentin fog hit mid-keystroke, and the user simply floated off into dreamland. These unfinished threads are the ancient runes of patient forums. They tell a story without telling a story. Then you encounter the armchair neuroscientists, people with usernames like Spine Wizards Evan or Nerve Guru Mom, who confidently make claims no scientist has ever verified. Gabapentin works by aligning your chakras. Gabapentin lowers your body's magnetic field. Gabapentin increases your empathy for houseplants. None of this is true. All of it gets upvoted. Interspersed, you find posts from people who have absolutely no idea what medication they're even discussing. I think gabapentin gave me hiccups for 6 months. My cousin's neighbour's dog took gabapentin, and learnt Spanish. I don't take gabapentin, but I'm here to vibe. Every thread devolves the same way. Someone complains about dizziness. Someone else says they love the dizziness. Someone writes a paragraph in all caps insisting you must take the pill with yogurt, or the universe will collapse. A person from 2014 randomly reappears to ask if anyone ever solved their issue. No one answers. Sometimes entire conversations spiral into deep philosophy. What is nerve pain? Do we really know how the brain works? If gabapentin is pretending to be GABA, who am I pretending to be? Then a moderator pops in to say, please consult your doctor, which everyone ignores. The forums also contain the rarest species of poster, the calm realist. A person who writes something like, it helped a little, not a miracle, not a disaster, just fine. They are ignored immediately. Patient forums thrive on drama, not nuance. But what truly defines these spaces is the camaraderie, the chaotic, sleepy, stumbling solidarity. Everyone is confused. Everyone is trying something different. Everyone is guessing. And somehow, through the mess, you feel less alone. You recognize bits of your own journey and strangers' ramblings. Even the incomplete sentences feel comforting, like digital lullabies written by people who simply nodded off mid-thought. So you close your laptop feeling oddly reassured. Because the truth about gabapentin, its quirks, its mysteries, its inconsistencies, is reflected perfectly in the forums, beautiful, chaotic, contradictory, and deeply, profoundly human. By the time you reach the present day, gabapentin isn't just a prescription, it's a vibe, a phenomenon, and a modern folk remedy for the collective American backache. It doesn't happen overnight. No medication wakes up and says, yes, today I will become a cultural icon. Gabapentin's rise is slow, accidental, and deeply funny. It starts as a quiet little anticonvulsant minding its own business. Then, somewhere between the economic collapse, the rise of social media, the death of decent office chairs, and the discovery that adulthood involves constant nerve pain for no reason, gabapentin just happens. It fills a void made of burnout, lower back stiffness, chronic stress, and a healthcare system held together by duct tape and vibes. People needed something gentle, something cheap, something doctors didn't hesitate to prescribe, and gabapentin stepped forward like an unsuspecting tribute. I mean, I can try. Doctors began recommending it the way medieval healers recommended herbs, freely, frequently, and with the subtle energy of, look, it's either this or more Tylenol. A nation battered by long work hours and ergonomic tragedies clung to it, with the same hope peasants once reserved for comets. Maybe this will help. Then came the word of mouth. Your friend's mum says it worked wonders. Your neighbour says it helped his sciatica. Your co-worker says she didn't feel anything, but she keeps taking it anyway because it seems responsible. Someone online says it gave them the best sleep of their life. Someone else insists it made them feel like they were floating through Costco in astral projection mode. Slowly, gabapentin transforms from medication into folklore. It becomes a thing people mention casually like weather or taxes. Yeah, I'm on gabapentin for my shoulder. Oh yeah, I take that too. Oh my goodness, me too, do you get the leg wobbles? You'd think everyone was discussing a new Netflix show, and because gabapentin is low risk and inexpensive, it sidesteps the cultural baggage other meds carry. It isn't glamorous, it isn't dangerous, it isn't personality altering, it's just there, showing up, doing its best, like the middle child of pharmaceuticals. This relatability gives it power. You don't need to be chronically ill to have nerve pain. You don't need to be elderly to have back issues. You don't need a dramatic medical condition to feel like your limbs occasionally send you threatening emails. Everyone hurts somewhere, somehow. And gabapentin became the universal, maybe it'll help button. Then came the broader forces. The opioid crisis pushed doctors to seek safer pain alternatives. Insurance companies gleefully covered it because it costs roughly 5 cents. Aging millennials discovered that sitting incorrectly once can disable you for 3 days. Social media spread its reputation like wildfire, half jokes, half testimonies, fully relatable. Gabapentin became the unofficial mascot of "I'm doing my best, but my body is unionized." At PTA meetings, people compare doses. At yoga class, someone whispers the name with reverence. At family dinners, an aunt casually mentions it after dessert. At Walmart, half the pharmacy line is there to refill it. And let's not forget the cultural conditions. Americans are exhausted. Sleep is a myth. Ergonomics is optional. Stress is permanent. Healthcare is confusing. Gabapentin entered the scene not as a miracle, but as a kind, affordable shrug. A soft pillow in pill form, a neurological there. A gentle tap on the shoulder saying, "Shh, let's quiet those nerves a bit." By the present day, its popularity isn't surprising, it's inevitable. We're a nation of people sitting too long, thinking too hard, stressing too much, and sleeping too little. Gabapentin isn't just a medication, it's a cultural mirror reflecting back everything we've asked our bodies to endure. So millions ended up on it not because it's perfect, not because it's powerful, but because it fits the moment. A tired era, a strained society, a population in need of something soft. Gabapentin became that softness. Not a cure-all, not a miracle, but a vibe. A tiny beige symbol of collective survival. Your journey begins with 3 sacred items: a 7-day pill organizer, a blanket that somehow weighs 40 pounds, and the quiet acceptance that this medication might help eventually, maybe at some point. You're not sure what you're treating anymore. Pain, anxiety, the crushing realization that you're aging, but you swallow the capsule anyway because the doctor nodded reassuringly while typing something mysterious into the computer for an uncomfortably long time. This is the Gabapentin starter pack, the modern equivalent of a medieval traveller receiving a loaf of bread, a candle stub, and vague advice about wolves. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how long it will take. You don't even know what the instructions really mean. But you're on the path now, and the only way forward is through scheduled doses and mild confusion. The pill organizer becomes your new best friend and your worst enemy. At first, you buy a small one, cute, simple, humble, something that whispers, "I'm only taking 1 pill a day." Fast forward 3 weeks and you're upgrading to a deluxe accordion-style organizer with 14 compartments per day, colour-coded sections, and a latch so strong it could survive a medieval siege. You open it each evening like a treasure chest, only to forget what you were looking for. Meanwhile, the weighted blanket becomes essential. You don't know why, you don't know how, but as soon as gabapentin enters your system, the blanket calls to you. It drapes itself across your body like a benevolent sandbag. You sink into it with the heavy, peaceful resignation of a Roman senator accepting his fate. Every limb becomes warm, anchored, contemplative. The blanket doesn't just comfort you, it traps you gently, preventing you from wandering the house like a confused Victorian ghost at 3 a.m. Then there are the lowered expectations. Gabapentin teaches you those quickly. You begin your journey with optimism. This might fix everything. By week 2, this might fix something. By week 4, this might gently inconvenience my pain enough that I can pretend I'm fine. By month 3, okay, whatever, just help me sleep. Lowered expectations aren't defeat, they're survival. They are the soft landing your heart gives itself when reality doesn't match the brochure. And because gabapentin works slowly, subtly, and sometimes not at all, you develop a zen-like patience you did not ask for. Your doctor contributes to this transformation. Every visit is the same ritual. You describe your symptoms in earnest detail. Your doctor nods thoughtfully. Your doctor types with the intensity of a hacker breaking into a medieval treasury. Your doctor says, "Let's increase the dose." You try to ask questions. They say, "Gabapentin is very flexible." You say, "In what way?" They say, "Let's increase the dose." You surrender. As you settle deeper into your starter pack, you begin noticing patterns. You take your pill. You wait. You feel sleepy maybe. Dizzy occasionally. Your nerves, slightly quieter, or exactly the same. Hard to tell. Then you wrap yourself in the blanket again and think, well, progress comes in many forms. Soon, you adopt the other starter pack essentials. A water bottle you refill constantly because gabapentin makes your throat dry in mysterious ways. Snacks, because you can't tell whether you're hungry or bored. A phone charger within arm's reach at all times. A second blanket. Because why not? Your personality shifts subtly. You move slower. You accept things. You no longer rush. You become the sage of your household, offering wisdom like, "It might get better," and "Let's just rest for a minute." And somewhere in this process, this soft, wobbly, blanket-swathed odyssey, you realize something comforting. Gabapentin didn't change your life dramatically. It didn't fix everything. It didn't break anything. It simply softened the edges. A gentle rounding of the sharp corners of existence. A tiny whisper to your nerves. Shh, enough. And that, strangely, is exactly what the starter pack promised all along. It's the early 2010, and doctors across the country collectively decide, without speaking to one another, that gabapentin is now the medical equivalent of duct tape. Have nerve pain, gabapentin. Have anxiety, gabapentin. Have grief, seasonal allergies, job burnout, or a complicated emotion you can't label, gabapentin. The drug becomes so common that pharmacies start stacking it like towers of soup cans in a grocery store. This is the great overprescribing boom, an era historians will one day look back on with the same baffled curiosity we use when studying medieval bloodletting. No one fully understands how it happened. There was no memo, no meeting, no dramatic press release. Just one day, all at once, the entire medical community looked at gabapentin and said, "Yes, this will solve something." Part of the shift came from necessity. The opioid crisis was raging. Insurance companies were covering less, and doctors were trapped in exam rooms with 15-minute appointment slots and patients describing symptoms that sounded like poetry written by exhausted bones. They needed something safe, something non-addictive, something cheap, something that wouldn't trigger a phone call from an insurance adjuster asking, "But have you tried breathing exercises instead?" Gabapentin fit perfectly. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't powerful, it wasn't fast, but it was gentle, and it was approved, and it was, most importantly, unlikely to make your doctor's life harder, so it spread. A small-town clinic in Iowa prescribed it. A pain management center in Miami prescribed it. A podiatrist in Portland prescribed it because why not? Feet have nerves too. A dermatologist in Nevada prescribed it for itching. A dentist prescribed it for jaw tension. A psychiatrist prescribed it for sleep because everything else was too expensive. Across America, doctors scribbled gabapentin on charts with the breezy confidence of someone recommending a good TV show. Pharmacies felt the wave almost immediately. Shelves once dedicated to seasonal allergy meds were suddenly packed with gabapentin bottles. Technicians moved constantly, counting capsules until their dreams were filled with the sound of plastic clattering across a tray. Some stores started pre-bottling the common doses just to survive the rush. Pharmacies that didn't carry it in bulk quickly learned the error of their ways. The funniest part, most patients had no idea what the medication actually did. They just accepted it, because when a doctor types intensely for 30 seconds, nods gravely, and hands you something, your brain says, "Ah yes, treatment." You go home with your bottle, Googling the pronunciation, Is it Gabapentin or Gabapentin? And pray it fixes whatever you think is wrong. Gabapentin spread like folklore. People recommended it to friends. Family members swapped stories about side effects. Chiropractors whispered its name like a secret spell. At potlucks, someone inevitably said, "Oh, honey, ask your doctor about gabapentin," as though passing down generational wisdom. And because gabapentin's uses were broad, vague, and ever-expanding, its legend grew. It became the Swiss Army knife of prescriptions, rarely perfect for any single problem, but surprisingly useful in enough situations that doctors kept returning to it. And returning. And returning. By 2016, if you opened a random junk drawer in any American household, you had a decent chance of finding a stray gabapentin pill rolling around beside rubber bands and expired coupons. It became part of the national landscape. But the truth is, this boom revealed something deeper about American life. People were hurting, people were exhausted, people were anxious, stiff, buzzing, burning, tingling, overwhelmed. And gabapentin, gentle, slow, mild-mannered gabapentin, was the closest thing many of them had to a safe, accessible nerve-soothing tool. Doctors weren't overprescribing out of laziness. They were overprescribing out of desperation, trying to help a population drowning in physical and emotional discomfort with limited tools at their disposal. So gabapentin became the duct tape of American medicine. Not glamorous, not perfect, but useful enough that everyone had a roll of it somewhere. You go to brunch with 4 people and discover casually that all of you take gabapentin for completely different reasons. One takes it for sleep, one for sciatica, one because their doctor wasn't sure what else to do, and one because they read half a Reddit thread at 2 a.m. Suddenly you realize you're not individuals, you're a support group held together by French toast and shared dizziness. This is the moment adulthood crystallizes, not when you hit 30, not when you buy your first non-IKEA couch, not when you find joy in comparing grocery store prices. No, adulthood becomes real when you realize every friend you have is on a prescription medication that sounds like it came free with a medieval catapult. And gabapentin is the glue, the vibe, the thread that binds your brunch table together like a very sleepy tapestry. At first, the conversation is normal, innocent. You're sipping coffee. Someone mentions back pain. Someone else mentions sleep issues. Another person mentions nerve buzzing that feels like my shins are trying to send Morse code. All relatable, all very adult. Then the first bomb drops. "Oh, my doctor put me on gabapentin." Everyone freezes. Eyebrows lift. Forks pause mid-air. One friend leans forward. "Wait, you take it too." Suddenly the brunch table erupts like you've all discovered you're part of the same ancient prophecy. One by one, everyone confesses their dosage like knights revealing their battle scars. I'm on 300 at night. I'm on 600 twice a day. I'm on 900, but only because my doctor panicked. I don't know what my dose is. I just swallow whatever fits in the pill organizer. No one judges. No one gasps. Instead, everyone nods with the solemn unity of monks chanting in a monastery. Because deep down you all suspected this. You've seen each other wobble slightly when standing up too fast. You've watched someone zone out for a suspiciously long moment during group conversations. You've noticed that everyone seems unusually prepared for naps. The brunch transforms into an unofficial meeting of the Gabapentin Guild. Your friend who takes it for sleep describes their evenings like a Victorian romance novel. I take my pill, wrap myself in a blanket, and drift into oblivion. The sciatica friend nods sympathetically. The Reddit thread friend admits they originally took gabapentin thinking it was like melatonin but medical. You stare at them, deeply concerned, but also understanding. Because who among you has not made questionable choices at 2 a.m? Everyone begins sharing side effect stories like war tales. I once forgot my cat's name for 3 minutes. I tried to put my phone in the dishwasher. I walked into a room and forgot why I had legs. My doctor increased my dose without warning, and I slept for 16 hours. The laughter is cathartic, healing. It fills the restaurant with a gentle hum of collective neurological dysfunction. Eventually someone asks, should we be concerned that all of us are on the same medication? You consider it. You look at each other, adults with jobs, homes, responsibilities, and now coordinated prescriptions. And you realize something comforting. This isn't concerning. This is modern life. Everyone is tired. Everyone is stressed. Everyone's nerves are misfiring like poorly tuned violins. Gabapentin isn't a coincidence. It's a generational mood. A signpost of a society held together with caffeine, physical therapy referrals, ergonomic chairs, and the occasional beige capsule. By the end of brunch, your group chat has been renamed the Gabbies. Someone jokes about designing matching sweatshirts. Someone else suggests meeting again next week to discuss whether anyone has achieved peak dizziness. You leave the restaurant with a full stomach, a warm heart, and the profound realization that community comes in many forms. Sometimes it's shared hobbies, sometimes it's shared experiences, and sometimes it's a table of adults whispering, "Oh my God, you take it too!" Gabapentin didn't just connect your nervous system to calm, it connected you to each other. And so tonight, as we drift slowly back from the chaotic little universe of gabapentin, the prescription drug that somehow became a cultural moment, take a breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let the last bits of tension melt the way your spine melts the first time gabapentin kicks in, and you suddenly forget what you were supposed to be doing. You've travelled through the unexpected saga of a humble anticonvulsant that never asked for fame but got it anyway. You've navigated doctors who prescribed it with the enthusiastic confidence of someone clicking random buttons on a microwave. You've survived the pharmacies, the pill organisers, the dizziness, the naps you didn't mean to take, and the strange realisation that every pet, neighbour and cousin is apparently taking this too. And somehow, through all the confusion and side effects and gentle wobbling, people manage to keep going, to endure, to search for relief in whatever form it arrived, even if that relief came packaged in a capsule the size of a small submarine. Because in a way, the story of gabapentin is just another story of being human, of trying things, of hoping something works, of waking up one morning and realizing you've become part of a quiet nationwide club held together by slightly blurry vision and shared experiences in Walmart pharmacy lines. It's messy, unpredictable, sometimes funny, sometimes frustrating, and always a little mysterious, just like the medicine itself. So tonight, as you curl into your bed with clean sheets, indoor heating, and a thermostat that actually obeys you, maybe whisper a tiny thank you to the uneven, winding roads that brought us to the comforts we have now. To modern medicine, imperfect but miraculous. To researchers who try their best. To pharmacists who pretend not to judge your pronunciation. And to your own resilience. The quiet kind that gets you through days you didn't think you could handle. Because history, whether it's medieval winters or modern medication chaos, always shows the same patterns. People fumbling forward, improvising solutions, sharing whatever wisdom they can, and laughing at the absurdity of it all. We survive not because things are perfect, but because people are stubborn, hopeful, and endlessly inventive. So now let your mind grow soft around the edges. Let your breath settle. Let the warmth of your blankets cradle you. The gabapentin cradles your nervous system on a good day. You made it through this journey. You made it through your day. And now you get to rest. The world can wait until morning. Sleep well. Good night.